don't think I need to do that anymore.
There are some places that, depending on how you link things, adding the full URL actually makes stuff happen. Like I have noticed actually even with Twitter sometimes without the http:// sometimes if it's going to automatically put a box with a description, I don't know what you call those things. But like if a separate little box appears with a description and a picture because you are linking to somewhere, sometimes if you don't have the full URL, it doesn't work. I don't know why.
Because your face.
My face does a lot of things. My face is much more powerful than you realize.
Hi, I'm Jack.
Hi, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm your face. I mean, I'm Lauren.
And we are Glib Shark. Today we're recording this on July 19th, 2016. We'll get into Ghostbusters, Star Trek, and Stranger Things in just a bit. But first, as always, or at the very least as often as we can, we have the lovely, the talented, the amazing Oboe Crazy here to do a little something that we call This Week in Geek. How are you, Lauren?
I'm interesting. So let's start off with a little bit of Twilight Sparkle. I don't usually talk about politics on this show. We try to avoid it. And I wasn't going to talk about this at all on This Week in Geek. And then it turned geeky, and I just can't resist. So, to make a very long story semi-short, the Republican National Convention is going on, and Donald Trump's wife, Melania Trump? Is that her name?
Melania,
I'm not sure.
I think.
I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. She gave a speech, as is kind of the norm at both of these conventions, both Republican and Democratic, and where wives of the, or, you know, maybe one of these days, husbands of the prospective nominee introduce their significant other. And she has been accused of plagiarizing a chunk of her speech directly from Michelle Obama's speech from 2008 being delivered to the Democratic National Convention when she was doing essentially the same thing. And whether or not this is actual plagiarism, whether it is just a couple of turns of phrases, whether she wrote it or somebody else wrote it, or there's a lot of shit going on with this. I invite you to go and read up on just everything that's going on in politics. And as I said, I wasn't going to talk about it, except the Republican National Convention's chief strategist, Sean Spicer, decided to go on CNN and defend the speech and say that it was not plagiarism. And the basic tone that he took was that there are these phrases that get used a lot in our language, especially when you're talking about certain topics, and that if you do a Google search for certain phrases, they come up in a bunch of different places, and how this is just a big coincidence. And that would have been it, except that he says that you could have gotten that from My Little Pony. That's right. He says that there's this line that Michelle Obama said, "This is your dream. Anything you can do in your dreams, you can do now," was said by Twilight Sparkle. And he actually mentions Twilight Sparkle by name in My Little Pony. He also references Kid Rock and John Legend and a bunch of other stuff. And I find it just amazing that the chairman of the Republican National Convention used Twilight Sparkle in order to defend his nominee's significant other. It's definitely an interesting thing to go take a look at. We won't even go into the whole fact that Michelle Obama's speech was in 2008, and the cartoon that he's referring to didn't start until 2010. We should really get to the most important part of the speech, the thing that everybody really should be talking about with this speech, which is the fact that she rickrolled us in the middle of her speech. She said, "He will never, ever give up. And more importantly, he will never, ever let you down." Ladies and gentlemen, if you were at the Republican National Convention, you just got rickrolled. That's all I want to talk about politics. Now let's talk about a happier topic, Twitter and racism and awful people. So Ghostbusters came out a week ago. And there's a whole contingent of butthurt people on the internet who don't like the fact that there's not a bunch of white men portraying Ghostbusters. And a significant portion of that butthurt population took to Twitter and decided that the target for their ire was going to be Leslie Jones, who is one of the actresses in the movie. And instead of being able to spend the days after the release of this big budget, glorious blockbuster movie enjoying the fact that she did this awesome thing and made a lot of people laugh, she had to deal with the fact that she was dealing with racist and awful slurs on Twitter. And I won't repeat some of those because they're awful and horrific, and you should never say those things. And she took the tact that was the exact opposite of what a lot of people usually suggest. We've heard a lot when you are attacked by the awful people on the internet that you should just ignore the trolls, or you shouldn't pay attention to them, or you should just report them and go on with your lives, and blah, blah, blah. And she decided, fuck that. These people are being horrible to me, and I'm going to call them out on it. And in the process called out the fact that, yeah, Twitter doesn't do a lot to stop this kind of behavior. And it's been interesting watching this unfold, mostly because I happen on Twitter to not just follow her, but follow, let's say, people who have worked in the gaming industry, specifically in enforcement and the management of awful people online. And and so the fact that a lot of people are saying Twitter could absolutely positively do something about this overnight, makes a lot of people unhappy. The reason I bring this up is twofold. One, hey, don't be an asshole on the internet. I would like to think that most of our audience knows that already. But it's a good thing to just remind everybody. Also, yeah, that truck was me. I'm sorry. But as well as don't be an asshole on the internet, I would like to get the Glib Shark Army. Do we have a name for our fans? Glib Sharkians? Sharkers? Awesome people. I would like you awesome people to go out and do something awesome on Twitter, because the unfortunate end result of this is that Leslie Jones is stepping back from Twitter because, hey, that's a reasonable thing to do when you go to Twitter and it's filled with horrible, horrible things being said about you. Maybe you don't want to go there anymore. When you get a second, if you have a Twitter account, would you, even if you haven't seen Ghostbusters, even if you have no intention to see Ghostbusters, go ahead and tweet at Lesdog. It's LESDOGGG. And let her know that she's a good person and most of humanity is okay. And she deserves to have a wonderful time on the internet like the rest of us. Because she does. And you know what? Why not? As for Twitter, when they were reached out to for comment about all the horrible, crazy things that are being done on their service, they said, quote, this type of abusive behavior is not permitted on Twitter, and we've taken action on many of the accounts reported to us by both Leslie and others. We rely on people to report this type of behavior to us, but we are continuing to invest heavily in improving our tools and enforcement systems to prevent this kind of abuse. We realize we still have a lot of work in front of us before Twitter is where it should be on how we handle these issues, end quote. So right now it's just platitudes, but hey, maybe that will be something, a promise for the future. I want to end off on happy news because we kind of talked about crappy politics and then crappy internet. So let's talk about someone awesome, John Williams. Yeah, that John Williams, the guy who composed every single major motion picture soundtrack for the last part of my life. So John Williams lives in a very nice house in a very nice neighborhood, obviously. And there are these two kids who decided that they were going to go play in front of John Williams' house. Trumpeter Bryce Hayachi and flugel player Mikkel Miller decided to go play the theme to Star Wars outside of his house. These are, teenager kids. Showed up, played on the sidewalk. Now, a lot of people they'd get ignored, or they would, nothing would happen, or worse, the police would be called. John Williams came outside and shook their hand and chatted with them because John Williams is awesome. And because there was a proud mom nearby, she was filming the whole thing, or most of it. You get to see the beginning of the conversation, but get to see him amble on out and be like, hey, Yay, you guys hit the high notes and everything. That's great. How you doing? So if you would like to see awesome people having awesome interactions with fans and hear, what in my professional opinion is some pretty good teenagers playing some pretty awesome music, go do a search. It's kind of all over the classical world, and you can go find it pretty easily, and it's kind of awesome. That's all for This Week in Geek. I'm Oboe Crazy, and I'm a truck backing up.
Beep, beep, beep. So the world is terrible, and the world is wonderful, but most of all, the world is indeed a strange place. If you have a fact you want read live and on the air, you can send it to Lauren at obocrazy.com, and she'll read it. And while you're at it, go to glibshark.com, home of like hundreds of hours of content, including classic Jenga Jam, Buttcast episodes, modern day Glibshark, and of course the latest sensation, Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks. Glibshark.com, the house of all of our content.
Is it a pocket house?
I am really bummed, and we're recording this the day after we were supposed to record, but we weren't able to play yesterday. Because it'll happen. I know, but I'm still feeling a little sad about it, and also kind of like depressed about the state of the world in general. But
I didn't mean for that to be like This Week in Geek. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to button it with John Williams being awesome.
Sure.
I think it's and the Republican National Convention thing, it was just kind of funny.
Right.
I think you should be paying attention to that for important things that are being said, not this thing. I mean, those of you know by now, a lot of the time This Week in Geek is not important. So, but yeah, I mean, you guys are lovely and wonderful and talented and are never assholes on the internet. So there.
I wouldn't say never.
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't say never.
I would say rarely.
Consistently awesome, or else I wouldn't be friends with you.
Yeah, 85%
I'll take
are
that.
better, I would say. But although you do bring up, Oboe, a very good point. What do we call listeners of our show? I mean, I was thinking of the name Glibshark Navy, but that does sound a little off the beaten track.
I don't know. I actually kind of like the Glibshark Navy.
We can think about that while Jonathan tells us a little more about Ghostbusters, because I hear you got to see the movie this weekend.
I got to see Ghostbusters this weekend. I got to see it on Sunday. There were too many kids in that movie, just out of principle. One little girl decided that she wanted to have a conversation during one of the parts, and thankfully her parents, well, they eventually got her out. But anyway, point is, the movie is super fun. It is not perfect. It is definitely not the best movie I've seen. It's not the second best. It's not even the third best movie I've seen this summer. But it is still worth going to see. If for nothing else than to support this idea that, hey, girls can be Ghostbusters too. And I think, thankfully, the movie didn't like beat us over the head too much with it. I mean, like, these were just scientists and people and a group getting together to fight ghosts who all happen to be female. And I think that's something that the movie did really, really well. And I enjoyed myself. Like I said, it's not the best Paul Feig movie either, but it's still good and it's still fun. And I recommend it. There's a group of movie critics called Red Letter Media, and you guys might know them from like their Star Wars reviews. They also did a Star Trek review, and they also have a weekly series they do called Half in the Bag. And they were really brutal on Ghostbusters. To the point where I was just like, you know what? There's a lot of negativity here, and I'm just not. I just don't want to listen to it anymore. And they just were not like where I found the movie charming. They just didn't see any of that. They just had apparently super high expectations for that movie, and it didn't meet it. But it's still fun. It's still good, and you should still go see it.
And to be honest, beyond all of the crazy batshit butthurt people, when it comes to not just a Ghostbusters movie, but like a summer movie in general, I want fun. I don't really need
I hear
much
that
else.
I hear that a lot. And I hear people going, "Oh, well, I hope Independence Day was fun. It wasn't. People are saying, oh, I hope Suicide Squad will be fun. It probably won't be. Ghostbusters is the definition of fun that I think everyone is trying to look for. It's not a cerebral movie. It's not, like I said, it's a good movie that is simply fun. And I think I finally understand what people were trying to look for in things like Independence Day and then also in the upcoming Suicide Squad. Because Independence Day was not fun. Independence Day was insipid. It was just boring.
I still want to see. There's still a couple of other movies that came out this summer that I want to see, mostly because I'm hoping for fun. Luke and I finally saw Batman versus Superman, which
I'm sorry,
was not fun. I still want to see the Warcraft movie because I think it will just be fun. So we'll see if that happens. I really do want to see Suicide Squad, if only because I'm intrigued, and the teenage me is going, they made a Suicide Squad movie? What? Like, I feel like teenage geek me needs to see that movie, if only because, holy shit.
No, it's sort of like, I'm really hoping that Suicide Squad gets sort of the Guardians of the Galaxy treatment. As you remember way back when after the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1, after the success of Avengers, they were like, okay, what's coming in Phase 2? Well, of course, we have Iron Man, we have Thor, we have Captain America, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. Wait, what?
We have a talking raccoon and a talking tree.
Who the fuck are the Guardians of the Galaxy? Mm-hmm. Oh, they have that raccoon. Okay. I've heard of the raccoon. I've never heard of anyone else, but they're the ones with the raccoon. Okay. All right. And like a lot of people were thinking like Doctor Strange or something like that would make Phase 2 first, because I would say Doctor Strange is a little bit more prominent than Guardians of the Galaxy, but it worked. Mm-hmm. And Guardians of the Galaxy may have been the best movie of Phase 2.
Yeah, that was a huge gamble, and I was kind of bummed out when you mentioned that Suicide Squad probably won't be fun, because I'm actually looking forward to seeing that movie.
I'm really hoping that it's the same case as actually Ghostbusters, because the trailers for Ghostbusters were pretty bad. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why people's expectations for Ghostbusters were crazy low. Suicide Squad's kind of in the same boat. Its trailers have been very derivative, and it's been like people shooting and people doing all this stuff, and they've got crazy costumes, and it's kind of like, okay, all right. I mean, at this point, we've kind of seen all that before. Is there anything else? I think that's one of the consequences of comic book movies being so successful, is that there's higher expectations, at least from me. And Marvel consistently delivers on fun movies. And not even the best ones. I'm looking at you, Ant-Man. Yeah, Ant-Man was fucking fun, but it wasn't that great. And DC movies are just not great.
So I'm a little more hopeful. I do agree the first trailer or two that I saw of Suicide Squad left me going, meh. Even if my inner teenager was still going, what is this? What? I can't remember exactly the most recent one I saw was actually a while ago, and I know it was in the theater, so I don't remember when it was. But the trailer itself was a tonal shift to just like Guardians of the Galaxy level fun with a slightly darker tone, because it's ostensibly not good people. But it definitely had a different tone. It had a much more wacky, much more poppy style tone.
Well,
which
they kicked it off with that "I don't know what I'll do" song, where it's like at the beginning, and then it went into Ballroom Blitz. And I did like that trailer. I thought that trailer was a lot more effective in I think the tone they're trying to go for. Because if they go super grim dark, that's not going to work.
No, I don't. I totally agree. And I mean, frankly, anytime you add Ballroom Blitz into something, you're going to make me happy. But yeah, I think that trailer sold me a lot more than the previous ones because of that tone. So we'll see. It comes out 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's August.
Yeah, 3 weeks. 3 weeks, because it's like August 6th or something.
Yeah. So we'll see. I may plunk down the money for that. I'm definitely going to plunk down the money for Ghostbusters as soon as I have the time. And chances are very good this weekend I might actually go see the new Star Trek movie.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and go see Star Trek movie. I've got plans on Thursday nights, so I think I don't think I can do the normal get in early and see it on Thursday, which normally works for me. Normal, but I'll try and catch it this weekend because there's something else that comes out next week, right? I want to say.
I don't know.
Vamp amongst yourselves.
I'm the wrong person to ask about that kind of stuff. I'm right now. There's these couple of marquee movies that I want to see that Luke and I will probably try to spend the money to go see in a theater. And I'm just going to continue to try to keep up with all of the D&D I'm watching.
Looks like it is. Let's see, Into the Forest, which I don't. It's just getting lots of good reviews, but I don't know what it's about. And then Jason Bourne comes out on the 29th.
Ah,
so that's week after next.
Well, wait. Which Bourne is this? Is this Matt Damon Bourne or is this Jeremy Renner Bourne?
I don't think Jeremy Renner was technically a Bourne. I think he was named something else. It was like that's why it was the Bourne Legacy.
Bourne Legacy, yeah. The new one is Jason Bourne, so that's Matt Damon.
Yeah, it's Matt Damon.
Okay. I've only ever seen the first Bourne movie, so all I know is that it was Matt Damon, Jeremy Renner, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
So
I think Jason Bourne may end up being the first not comic book movie I see in theaters this year. Because I've only seen 3 this year so far. I've seen Deadpool, Civil War, and X-Men Apocalypse. So it'd be a nice change of pace.
Oh, that's
no Finding Dory?
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't had a chance.
Or Zootopia?
I saw the first 30 minutes of Zootopia, like long story, but I haven't had a chance to finish it yet. I've heard a lot of good things though. It's on my Redbox radar.
Zootopia has probably been my favorite movie this year.
Wow, that good?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, can you give us a slightly condensed version of why you've seen the first 30 minutes of Zootopia? Or if you can't, that's okay. I'm curious.
Let's just say there is so I was at my brother-in-law's place actually, and he had Zootopia, and then we watched the first 30 minutes of it with my nieces. They're like 12 and 9, and then the youngest one is almost 2. So we had to go. My wife and I were actually went over there for dinner, and we watched the first 30 minutes with the nieces, but we had to go back. It's a school night and all that. So we had to leave before we were able to finish the rest of the movie. But I think I'll make an effort to try and wrap it up at some point in the next I don't know, week or so.
Okay.
It's tricky because I have a lot of traveling. This weekend I'm going to Pittsburgh to help my brother-in-law move, and then next weekend I'm not sure whether we're moving or not. It's a long, crazy story. The weekend after that, I have to go to Long Island and then Princeton for a first profession and a wedding, respectively. So a lot of travel on my weekend radar. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen during the week.
Yeah, I scrubbed all my travel. I was supposed to go to Dallas this weekend and ended up not doing it.
Bummer.
I don't have any travel for the next couple of weeks, and then in about I think it's 3 weekends from now, I am taking a trip a few hours south to see a very good friend who is having a very wonderful baby shower. So
yay!
Tell those jerks I said hi.
Okay, I'm going to ask probably the wrong people this. Are baby showers really only for women?
Depends on who's throwing them. Like I've been to co-ed baby showers before. They did one for my godson. It was like a barbecue. They were games that were open for both men and women, and I was on the winning team. So, go mad diaper changing skills. Thank you very much.
I don't go to baby showers, but I get the impression that if I did, the reason I don't is not because I'm not invited. I just don't.
Okay. I just the invite was not specific. The person putting on the baby shower is a friend of the family, and I just
ask.
I'm just gonna have to, because I honestly don't know what the etiquette here is, and Luke's response was no, and I kind of respect that, especially if it's not. I don't know. I'll just ask. But I figured I'd ask you gentlemen if you had an opinion. I mean, none of us have kids. I think it should be fun. Like,
let's say if I was having kiddo and And I would think that Lisa would be okay with anyone coming, but she's not the type to put it on. So I don't know.
I mean,
I will definitely ask.
now bridal showers, on the other hand, those are definitely a one-gendered affair. Well, two, depending on who your friends are, I guess. But generally, heterosexual men are persona non grata. So when my wife had hers a couple of years ago, or a couple of years ago, I ended up going to a nearby bar with my brother-in-law and a friend of ours, and drinking some very nice bourbon.
Yeah, I guess if you put on a bachelor and or a bachelorette party, that is a very strong indication of, okay, here's one side of this party and here's the other side. But I do know of a lot of people who nowadays are throwing wedding parties, and it's a group combined, and it's all the men and women together going out and doing things, because gone are kind of the days in where, well, the guys are going to go to a strip club and the girls are going to go get their nails done, and now it's like, well, no, the girls kind of want to go dancing and have fun too, and the guys don't necessarily want to go to a strip club. They kind of want to see a movie and hang out. And so
the two bachelor parties that I was either in charge of or thrown were both non-stripper affairs. One of them was it wasn't Top Gear, but it was like electric indoor go-karts.
Ooh.
So that was my bachelor party. And then the one I threw for one Dr. Jones was at Topgolf.
Very cool.
Yeah, those sound like a lot of fun. Mine was actually just went up to the Poconos and just hung out and played video games and drank and did karaoke and we went shooting basically. And I had a lot of fun doing all those things. I didn't get to go to a strip joint, and that's really not my thing. What I did manage to do though is when I went to karaoke, I managed to serenade an entire bar up in the Poconos, including an entire bachelorette party, clapping along and singing along with me.
Nice.
So I felt like a rock star, which is kind of what I want.
Luke and I didn't get a chance to do bachelor or bachelorette parties because of the nature of the fact that we had to get married super quick because governments.
Yeah.
If the original plan had literally been to go to RTX, and then RTX is going to be our parties, and then we're going to get married at RTX. Didn't quite happen that way, but that's okay. I think if we had a chance to do over, I don't think I would have a separate bachelor and bachelorette party. I think we would try to do just one party and go to like GameWorks or something. Go somewhere fun where we could all hang out and there isn't terribly loud music and a lot of games. Or just have a party. Like I'm getting old and I kind of just want to hang out in my apartment or in someone's house and drink and play games. Like that's kind of all I want to do.
Yeah, I thought of the bachelorette party for Amanda was pretty fun. They did wine and painting, and so they were painting this like tropical vista. And our good friend Corey, aka Jericho, drew her tropical vista with a Godzilla shadow in it.
As you should.
It was a Godzilla not shadow, but I guess profile, and that was super fun.
Nice. See, now that's the kind of thing, as much as I just said, I just want to stay home and drink and play games with people. Like that kind of inventive event, that's super cool. Like, no, we're not just going to go to a bar and get drunk. No, we're not going to go to a strip club. But we're going to go drink wine and paint. We're going to go, kayaking. We're going to go, depending on.
The best thing about the painting was that it was at Amanda's house. So when we got done with Topgolf, we just went back there and met back up with the ladies. They were pretty much done with their painting and whining and clucking. So then we all hung out and just it continued the party on for both sides. It was good.
That sounds very good. Although I have never been to Vegas as an adult, and I do feel like one of these days I should go to Vegas as an adult.
Yeah, the thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have plenty of money, because Vegas is good. It's hard to have fun in Vegas without spending money.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. Also, see a show, because frankly, gambling gets old. But see a show, because the shows are really awesome, and I recommend Le Rev that's over at the Wynn. That one's really, really good.
Yeah, definitely I would do like a tiny, tiny little bit of gambling. But I definitely just kind of want to go to have that experience. I want to be able to walk up and down the strip. I definitely want to go see a show or two. I would do a tiny bit of gambling. I've gone into casinos before, and I've been fairly successful with I'm walking in with $100, and if I walk out with nothing more than fun, then I'm happy. And I'm usually pretty good at sitting down at the blackjack table and at least breaking even. So I think,
Nice.
knock on wood, and we're talking about maybe 4 times in my entire life. So,
Yeah.
definitely not, I'm not giving up my day job and going to become a professional blackjack player. But, yeah, I think a weekend, not even a long weekend, like a go down on Friday, come back on Sunday, might be the perfect amount of Vegas time for my life.
From everyone I've heard who are like Vegas pros, that is indeed the case. And you really don't, even the people who go to Vegas a lot don't want to do more than that because it's just not good.
It doesn't have that kind of pull for me. I always grew up within driving distance. I was always my whole life within driving distance of Atlantic City, and then now in Pennsylvania we have casinos pretty much everywhere. So if I were to go to Vegas, I'd probably want to check out the shows and do a little sightseeing and stuff like that. Definitely make that side trip to Hoover Dam and the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, that was something that was a lot of fun. We found there are a lot of tour groups that will take you down for like a day trip to the Grand Canyon, and we did that, and that was a lot of fun. Hoover Dam I have been to, and it was cool too. Not as cool as the Grand Canyon, but it was still neat.
See, so when I mentioned Las Vegas, I've only been there. I've never been there as an adult. When I was a child, I got a chance to go to Flagstaff, Arizona for a competition that my team was going for global finals, which was in Flagstaff. And one of the ways that I was in elementary school at the time, and one of the ways that the school was able to raise the money to send, there were 7 kids and all of the adults and paraphernalia they needed to go, was they turned it into an educational trip that included stops at Hoover Dam and the Grand Canyon. And the cheapest flights were charter flights into Las Vegas. So we flew into Las Vegas. We rented these 2 passenger vans. We saw the Hoover Dam. We went to the Grand Canyon. We kind of wound our way to Flagstaff, did our thing, and left. So I have spent a half a day in Circus as a child. And my memories are weird. And one of these days I will tell a whole story about Las Vegas as a child. But yeah, I do remember the Hoover Dam was kind of cool for a science, fun time. My 2 clearest memories of the Grand Canyon is I have one fairly clear memory of one of the scenic outlooks that we saw. And then we didn't go down into it because we were only there for maybe like 2 or 3 hours. We took what I can only describe as like a tram ride along the edge. And I have this memory of the tour guide telling us about these stink flowers that were blooming in that area that smelled like rotting meat. And so instead of flowers attracting bees, these were flowers that attracted flies for pollination, and that they were like 6 or 7 feet tall. Does this sound familiar to anybody? No, apparently not.
It's ringing a bell of some kind.
I'll have to look it up. Anyway, I would probably pass on the Hoover Dam again, but yeah, I think I would consider doing a long Vegas weekend if one of those days was a trip to the Grand Canyon, because
it is an entire day thing. Like you could probably do a show after something like that, but the car ride is so long that it would be tough.
Yeah.
It would probably be the kind of night that maybe you want to check out the hotel restaurant and maybe explore the hotel you're actually staying at. That way you don't have to go very far. Or maybe like we stayed at the Flamingo, and that was a great hotel as far as location because Caesar's Palace is across the street, and the Venetian is also down the street just a little bit, and the Flamingo is not nearly as expensive as those other 2.
And are the buffets still a thing? Like,
we didn't go to a buffet. I think they are still a thing, but we just didn't go to any.
Okay. Because I have to admit, like, going and just doing what I hear are the crazy Las Vegas buffets also kind of
There's
appeals.
also just crazy like Las Vegas food. Like there was a sandwich place that my buddies went to that served a literal Dagwood from the Blondie comic. Like,
oh my gosh.
It was the stacked sandwich, and it was just full of bacon. And yeah, they're expensive, but there's a lot of those kind of extreme eateries that I would presume that if you did some research, you could find the best ones. We actually went to a restaurant that was recommended by a friend of the show, Geeky Fried Rice, and we met her there, and that was super fun too.
Is there an off time for Vegas? Like, is there
no?
like
And that's one of the unique things about Vegas is there's not really like an off season, because in the summer everyone has time off, in the winter it's not as hot, so you get all kinds pretty much all year.
okay?
But I would imagine, like, if you did some research, and like I said, there are other hotels besides the Flamingo, but the Flamingo would be my recommendation because of the location and because of the price. You can find cheaper hotels that aren't on the Strip, but I will say that being off the Strip is a pain in the ass.
And if I was to ever drop the money on what would be 100% a frivolous vacation, we know of a couple people in that area, but really the reason to go would be to just spend money and do a frivolous thing. It's worth it in my mind to save up the extra couple of dollars and stay on the Strip in a nice hotel. Especially for not just the reasons you've mentioned, but also for the fun of it.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's the cool thing about the Flamingo, is that it's still a good hotel. It's a little gaudy.
But it's
a little
Las Vegas.
garish. Well, it's like the wrong kind of garish. Like you go to Caesar's Palace with Venetian, they're like a sort of a super fancy garish almost. But this is like there's a reason it's called the Flamingo. There's a lot of pink, and there's a lot of pink, but it's still like, our room was really good, and the location just really can't be beat, and because you can go and do everything that's around at the other hotels and still and not be paying nearly as much.
Good to know. There you go. Glib Shark tips for visiting Las Vegas.
Glib Shark tips, real quick, while we make our transition into, well, whatever we're going to be talking next. I do want to mention, if you have not seen Stranger Things on Netflix, it just dropped this weekend. It's 8 about hour-long episodes. I would highly, highly recommend you check out Stranger Things.
And while you were giving that excellent recommendation, I have found Amorphosalis titanium, which is often known as the Titan arum, is a flowering plant with the largest unbranched inflorescence in the world, and it's known as the stink plant. Due to its odor, which is like the smell of a rotting animal, the Titan arum is characterized as a carrion flower. I need to make sure that it actually... it's originally from Indonesia. You can find them in the Bronx. What? That seems weird. All right, so they must have some over there. But yeah, look up this flower. It's huge. It looks like something out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and it smells like rotting meat.
Someone on Reddit actually posted a picture of that. They were super happy to see it bloom, because they had one on their college campus and it was blooming, and they had this disgusted look in the picture because obviously it smells bad.
Yeah, and my vague memories as a child of seeing this thing was that it was not blooming, because not only do I not remember the smell, but I do remember the tour guide saying that apparently they don't fully bloom as often as you would like, which if they stink, I don't know. So, but look it up, it's cool.
Yeah.
What else did we want to talk about? I didn't know what
I
we
want
were
to reiterate
transitioning to.
Stranger Things, because the reason why it's good is that it is a throwback. It is definitely inspired by things like E.T. and It by Stephen King and all sorts of
the miniseries.
Yes, it's got, well, Stephen King in general, but specifically It, because I'm not going to say anything about the series. I'm just going to say it was definitely inspired by 80s horror. It is one of the creepiest fucking things I've seen recently. And like I said, it's a relatively short series. It's only 8 episodes on Netflix, and it is well worth your time to see it, especially at night, because it will creep you the fuck out. It is so good. The music, one of the best things about it is the music. Not only the pop music that they choose from that time period, which is just spot on, but also the John Carpenter, like, electro organ inspired soundtrack. It's everything about this series is so good, and I had no awareness of it until a week or two ago.
And how'd you find out about it?
Lisa said she wanted to watch it, and then actually the day she told me that she wanted to watch it, I read a Netflix, or not a Netflix, but a Reddit thread about it, and then some of our friends had also watched it, and they were like, we were just kind of geeking out about it, but it's like, oh my God, where did this come from? And the guys that made it, they made a series on Fox, I think, called Wayward Pines. But that's it. Like, other than that, they really haven't done a whole lot. And I think this is just one of the many boons that we're getting from Netflix are things like Stranger Things. Because no network would have ever given this many resources to these two guys to make anything. And Netflix did it, and they made something wonderful.
Thank the world for Netflix. I might be the first person to say that in a while.
No,
and I'm not even one of those
the people who all watch Stranger Things said that.
No, but just the fact that they're willing to put money behind a lot of this stuff, and a lot of money, you know, the fact that they will greenlight full seasons of stuff and pay for it all to be made so they can put it all out at once, which is the complete antithesis of what network television usually does, and where you're lucky to get 2 or 3 episodes before they'll can your ass if they don't even think.
That's the other difference between this and network television. It only needs 8 episodes to tell its story. It doesn't. Yeah. It never drags anything out. 8 episodes is perfect. It's perfectly paced for that, and it's so good.
Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of Netflix like lately. I watch more Netflix, I think, than I watched, you know, any of my premium channels I have in my cable package, like HBO or Cinemax or Showtime. I've just finished Peaky Blinders season 3, which is incredible. Tom Hardy is so great as Alfie Solomons. It's worth the whole series just to watch him. And I just started Marco Polo season 2, which I know some people don't like so much, but I've been digging it. Like,
I hear that it's better than season 1, and season 1 just didn't grab me. I watched, I would think, the first 2 or 3 episodes, and you'd think that tits and kung fu would get me, but it didn't.
At least the kung fu is.
But it didn't.
Do the tits participate in the kung fu? Does someone
as far as I saw?
If you keep watching, they're not mutually exclusive at all.
I was about to say.
There's an amazing naked fight scene in season 1.
I may have to at least YouTube that fight scene. I am curious.
One thing, speaking of television that's been coming out recently, if you haven't been watching Day 5, even if you haven't been watching Day 5, you are aware of a scene that was shot in 2012 at RTX, at the first big RTX. This last week's episode of Day 5, it's episode 4, finally has that scene.
Yep, and it's been fun seeing friends on Twitter be like, hey, look at this screenshot. That's me. That's so cool.
By far the best thing about this episode. To be fair to the episode, it is really good. And Joel, he is a great actor, and he does a great professional. He does a great job as this character, and and not fair to the episode, I could have watched the episode just in its entirety, but I spent the first part looking for people, and I'm happy to say I did actually spot a couple of friends. Chris, aka Damano, and a friend of the show, Izzy. She was like, you're not going to find me because only I know what I was wearing and I know where I was. And sure enough, I fucking found her.
And if you follow Jules, aka Bernice Q Burns, her and her significant other tweeted blurry because they're in the background pictures of the two of them in a scene. So that was cool.
Well, it's that same scene, yeah. And I was looking for Jules because I thought that big mop of red hair that she's got going would be easy to spot. But yeah, it took Steven tweeting out where they were for me to catch their location. Also, in the screenshot that I have posted right here, I believe Connor, our good friend Dark Bowler, is on a bench that is to the right of Joel.
Wow.
Oh, maybe. Well, we can ask him. He would know.
I think that's the one. He said it was a bench a bit further down the street, and you can see his camera bag. And it's hard to tell from this still, but I believe that is a giant bag next to him on that bench.
That is definitely a giant bag. And yeah, you might be right.
So they were just sitting on this footage for like 4 years?
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, so day 5 has... Actually, Bernie was talking about it on the RT podcast because they were talking about it because this shot was finally in the series proper. Day 5 has gone through a lot of different iterations. Tons of people have worked on it, trying to get it right and get it in front of the camera. And it's only they knew they needed a lot of people because when Bernie envisioned this series, he envisioned this scene specifically. So they knew this was something that they wanted off the bat. And to finally be able to integrate this into the show that has gone through a lot of different changes is really cool. And like I said, this day 5 does have its problems. It's not a perfect series, but it does do things right. And this episode was probably the best episode of this series. Not just for this, but for also the story it told in context of the greater story.
And for those who are unfamiliar, to give the full context of what we're talking about, back in 2012 at the RTX convention, one of the things you could do was you could be in what at the time I think was being billed as a short of some sort, but very little information was given out. It was just, if you would like to be in a Rooster Teeth production, you had to show up on, I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning.
It was 5 a.m. on like a Sunday.
Yeah, it was
the
either
Sunday of RTX, and that was the reason why I didn't go, because I had some fun on Saturday night and couldn't get my ass up.
The reason I'm not there is because Luke and I worked that convention, and so it was we both wanted to do it, but it was one of those. They said if you were going to do it, you had to block off. I don't remember exactly how much time, but it must have been at least 4 hours, because the time that you were required to be there went past the opening of the convention. And Luke came to the conclusion, he's like, no, I need to be at the convention because I have to sell stuff. So it was open to any RTX attendee. I believe it was on Congress they filmed this.
Yes, it was on Congress.
They managed to shut down Congress, and that's why that was one of the reasons it was such a god-awful early hour of the morning on a Sunday, because it was...
I believe they had the street from 6 a.m. to like 8:30. They were talking about it on the RT podcast, and I believe that's what Bernie said.
Yeah, and so you had to be there at 5, and they told you to wear nondescript-ish clothing, and they would tell you what to do, and I know what they did. I won't say anything to not spoil anything. But yeah, so basically all of the people you will see in the scene that we're talking about, including Joel in a way, are Rooster Teeth convention attendees volunteering to be in this thing, which is just super awesome. And the RTX convention has continued to be a place that the community can then participate in events. Was it the year after or 2 years after that they did the Slow-Mo Guys thing?
It was the year after.
Yeah.
And the year before they had the immersion.
The zombie
immersion, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
yeah. So it's definitely cool. There's a bunch of us who wish we could have been there, even though we're at RTX. There's a bunch of other people that we know. If you are a Rooster Teeth person, then chances are you have some idea about this.
I wish I could have gotten my ass up, because you know what? I spent a vast majority of the night with said Izzy, and we were hanging out. We actually took a big chunk of our night, not a big chunk, but a good chunk of our night looking for Jack, who had wandered to get drunk. And then we found him. We found him, and then I'm pretty sure we didn't call it a night there. I'm pretty sure we went to hang out somewhere else. But her ass got up, and my ass hit the snooze on his alarm. So now seeing it and seeing its integration into the series day 5, I really wish I had gotten up then. I wonder.
It's all right. It happens.
Yeah, no, I've been associated in plenty other ways with stuff, so I'm good.
We all have. So, if you're listening to this and you haven't yet tweeted about being in this and know where you are or have a blurry screenshot of yourself, go ahead and post it and add us. Let us know, because that people hunting is kind of cool, especially since we know people.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Super fun.
So a bit of happy news I just saw on my news feed. So the individual who orchestrated the campaign of Twitter social media abuse against Leslie Jones has been permanently banned from Twitter. I'm not going to mention his. I'm not going to mention his name on this broadcast because he doesn't deserve the publicity.
Nope.
But good for Twitter. Good for Jack Dorsey. Good for Leslie.
Yep. And still go tweet at Leslie. Let her know she's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, happy news to bookend. And actually, that's even more news that I didn't know about, because I didn't know that there was a guy orchestrating it.
He's been sort of an agent provocateur, sort of an agent of something called the alt left, where it's like, really just sort of trolls and like really just kind of
Trolls.
Really just trolls, but not just trolls, but particularly trolls who like hate so-called liberals or hate progressive movements and just hate people in general.
They just
so trolls basically. Alt left is just a fancy term for them.
Sorry, I saw what the Stephen Colbert Jonathan picture that got put up of the word Trumpiness.
Yeah, that was awesome. I seeing the character back in the Late Show bit, and then also seeing the bit where he was the guy from Hunger Games and trolling the Republican National Convention. That was great. Stephen Colbert is a goddamn treasure.
He is.
Now, as the furthest person to the right on this broadcast, and probably on D&D as well, I say there is certainly a place for right-wing politics to an extent. There's a place for, don't spend more than you take in and all that. But it's been kind of a ridiculous sideshow this year, and I don't really mind taking a stance and saying that, like, no, man, your guy sucks. You need a better candidate. Have you tried Gary Johnson?
Okay. We're going to back away from the politics.
We should.
Slowly.
Oh, I did want to mention that this last Saturday, I visited the Coop Brewery here in Oklahoma City and played a bunch of board games and drank a bunch of beer. And one thing you can probably see or hear on a future episode of Dungeons & Dragons and Drunks is the pineapple habanero beer that I got.
God, that sounds so good. This is the second time I've heard you say that, and both times I've had the same visceral reaction. I want that.
I got a crowler of it, and I remember when I tasted it, they gave you this like 2-ounce servings of the samples, and I didn't know what to expect. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to try this just to say that I've tried it, and it was goddamn delicious, and it was the only beer that I actually bought from the brewery that day.
Yeah, I kind of want to order that somehow. I want it in my mouth right now. And
I hear that a lot.
Sad. I know.
Apparently, the Elysian Brewing Company up in I guess Seattle has a flavor called Hawaiian Sunburn, which has that style of a pineapple habanero sour.
Yeah,
I'll check them out. Elysian's pretty good, so I will definitely check that out.
Yeah, they call this one the Spicy Hawaiian.
Ooh, I like. And at some point, did we ever get a chance to actually talk? I'm not going to suggest this for now because we're almost done with the episode. Did we ever actually get a chance to talk Game of Thrones?
No, but I will say we can talk about. So we'll just say that the episode was amazing. The music was amazing. You've heard this has been said by many people, and it is known. It was a goddamn amazing season, and the last 2 episodes were a treasure. A treasure. More modern news about Game of Thrones. It was confirmed. These were rumors that we had heard, but they were actually confirmed that not only will Game of Thrones be delayed until summer of 2017, it's also going to be 7 episodes.
Now, is it only going to be one more season, or will it be 2 more seasons of 7 episodes each?
The latter. It'll be 2 seasons of 7 episodes each.
Okay. I'm totally okay with that. If that's what they want to do, sure, absolutely. Let's do it.
I will say that by the definition of summer, if they actually started in June or maybe hopefully in June, that would mean that there would be an episode of Game of Thrones during RTX weekend.
Okay.
Which I'm totally okay with and would probably plan some sort of watch party.
Yeah.
So that's my cue to catch a saucy puppet show in Austin somewhere.
Or you could come out and watch a bunch of... You could be like that one Fast and Driver that I had. You could take in the fandom. Honestly, I think at a watch party like that, you would have a lot of fun because you would watch a lot of people get either really happy or really upset or both in the matter of an hour.
Can I make one wild, crazy prediction about those 2 seasons?
What's that?
The first season, that the very next season is going to pretty much 100% deal with the giant clash of armies that's about to happen. And the end of that season is going to be the White Walkers arriving. And then the last season will be everybody's got to get their shit together because the world is ending.
I think that's
that
fair.
is my wild guess, and we'll see.
I could see them like the climax of everything happening, all the fighting of all the sides, ending around the middle or middle end of the 7th season, or I'm sorry, the 8th season, and then like the last 2 episodes, I think, would be required to clean everything up. Like in Band of Brothers, and actually, I don't know why, but I rewatched The Pacific. Ugh. And in both series, the last episode was nothing but essentially, is it pronounced denouement?
Denouement.
Denouement. That's I knew that. It was all denouement. Like it was all cleaning up everything that had happened and saying goodbye to characters and wrapping up the series. And Band of Brothers, the last episode, Points, is masterful in this. But obviously Game of Thrones is going to have a lot more to clear up.
Also, I just want to say there's only one other thing that I need to see happen in the show for me to be happy, is I need to see these awesome women who've gotten together in the South go north and get together with Lyanna Mormont because she's fucking amazing. And then she can just sit back while armies go crazy and stare daggers at everybody and be this awesome child who just judges everyone. Because,
Lyanna
oh my
Mormont was
God.
definitely the standout of the season. Like she was the right mix of precocious, intelligent, and badass.
She was just badass. I love her so much. I want that actress to do everything. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about Game of Thrones.
That's it
unless
about
we want
Game
to
of
do
Thrones.
unless we want to do a full spoiler cast maybe down the way, but yeah. Thumbs up. Would watch again.
Our sound producer is Jonathan. Thumbs up, Cerna.
I gave thumbs down to a lot of shit today. Batman versus Superman, I'm looking at you. You're a shitty ass movie and you shouldn't have ever been made.
Just be happy you have thumbs. You can follow him at road_block, her at obocrazy, me at Jack Enethil, and us at Glib Shark. Our announcer is voice actor Bob Ball. Our theme music is done by Linnea Boyev. And on behalf of Jonathan Cerna, Lauren Urban, and the entire Glib Shark staff, this is Jack Edithel saying, have a shark. That's how it goes, right?
It will now. Yes, now.
All right. Thanks, streamers.